Hey everyone, in this video I wanted to do an interesting comparison. I wanted to answer which one is the better stock to buy, Ford or Nio. These two car companies are in different stages of their business cycles, so it would be interesting to compare these, although they're not, like I mentioned, on the same scale. To answer the question, I'm going to look at revenue growth, I'm going to look at operating profitability, I'm going to look at assets and debt, and I'm going to look at valuation to come up with the conclusion. So let's get right into it, starting with revenue growth. And interestingly, you would think that Nio is growing revenue faster than Ford, and while that was the case prior to 2022, ever since 2022, I would say like in the middle of 22, revenue growth has been a mixed story. There's been quarters where Ford had better revenue growth than Nio, and certainly most recently, Ford has had better revenue growth than Nio. So Nio's revenue growth has slowed down. It'll be interesting to see if the company can accelerate that growth in EVs, but for now, Ford is doing better on this metric. The next thing I wanted to compare these two car companies on is their operating profit margin, and Ford is well ahead of Nio here at 7.47%. The company's been consistently profitable over the last 3 years. Nio was making excellent progress towards profitability all the way until late 2021, and then the trend turned around in the wrong direction. Now its operating profit margin is heading downward at negative 37%. I don't mind companies with negative profit margins so long as they're making progress towards becoming profitable. I don't like to see this where it's moving in the wrong direction. That's a troubling sign to me. The next thing I wanted to compare these two companies on is total assets and total debt, just to highlight the different scale of the companies. Ford has total assets of 266 billion with total long-term debt of $143 billion, a massive sum to be sure, while Nio has total assets of 12.98 billion and total long-term debt of 2.768 billion. But interestingly enough, Nio's total assets, you can notice the trend moving up very quickly, almost tripling in the last 3 years, where it was at 4 billion. And this is evidence of a company that's in the growth stage of its business cycle, adding to its asset base so that it can increase output, so that it can grow revenue, while Ford is not in that growth stage of its business cycle. It's already at maturity, although the company is investing, but not to grow necessarily, but to transition away from the legacy auto industry to electric vehicles. And so it's investing in the transition, which is not leading to huge increases in its total assets, but just a change of its assets, right? From producing internal combustion engine cars to making the transition to electric vehicles, although that transition is happening slowly. Finally, I wanted to look at valuation, and I chose to use the forward price to sales ratio. And looking at this metric, Nio is significantly more expensive at a forward price to sales of 1.37 compared to Ford at a forward price to sales of 0.282. So if I had to make a decision today on which one of these two stocks to buy, I would go with Ford. I don't think Nio has demonstrated enough to deserve this much of a premium valuation over Ford. And so for that reason, I would pick Ford stock ahead of Nio. But that's all I've got for this video. I'd be curious to hear what you think, so let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.